Hello, everyone. Glad to see you back at Silver Tears Tarot, and a warm welcome to those of you who are joining for the first time. So today we're dipping into the energy of October. That's what it feels like for me, just sort of dipping in, and I'm going to take you along for the ride. So we're going to see what it means for this awesome collective we've got going on. This one isn't going into the soulmate series, or at least that's not the question I'm asking today. I'm asking a broader question, actually. So if what comes out is about your soulmate, you'll know because I'll include it in the series. But of course, I don't know that yet. So as usual, it's going to be a general reading for all signs. The readings are also timeless, so you'll be more drawn to readings when it's the right time for you to have them. But, if you're just tuning into this humble little channel, you may be being brought in as part of the soul tribe that's happening here. So it's starting to turn into a relatively consistent collective energy. And there is this amazingly elevated group of souls that I'm getting the privilege to read for. So anyway, if this one resonates, maybe check out a few recent ones. I was moved to start this YouTube channel because I knew this tribe was out there. I guess I just didn't realize how magnetic you all were going to be, or how amazing that it would feel to bring everybody all together. And, I know these readings won't resonate with everyone. These are readings that I'm doing for the collective. But if it does resonate with you, please do like, share, subscribe. So that way you can stick with me. And so that way I know which videos you want more of. And, about that, absolutely keep bringing your reading requests to me. I'm happy to keep fulfilling those, whether they're questions that belong in the Soulmate series or not. I like to know that I'm doing readings that people specifically would like to see. So let's see. Today we're looking at the energies around you for the month of October. And this is just kind of that first look. So it's still all ahead of us. And we're going to look again maybe mid-month after we've already seen a bit of the impact from things like the full moon on October 9th, 1010 portal on October 10th. And, man, I have no idea why that portal seems to mean so much to me, but I do know when I meditate on or about that time frame, and I'm already starting to feel the energy from it building up already. Now that I know that I'm looking, after I've felt it for a few years, I know what I'm looking for. I can start to feel it building up ahead of time, but it's like getting caught in a rush of stream of energy from like my deepest meditation. So it's just that much easier to access around the portal time. So like I said, we're just going to look at the month of October, just wide open, taking that wide view and seeing what's coming your way. So that's the first thing we're going to look at is just kind of what is the purpose? What's the big idea? What do you most need to look at as you're coming into the month of October? What is this going to be about? What is this going to be about? We just want one card. And remember, we've seen in some of the previous readings, we've had talk about lessons about vulnerability, about self-worth, self-mastery, even about dealing with, troublesome combinations in people we're attracted to. So there's a lot coming this way for the collective. I would just say check out some of those readings. If you found this channel because you were drawn to it, it does seem to be like there's I keep calling it a tribe, but it's a specific collective that I feel like I am reading for. Okay, and so I just take the top card unless I am called to pull others. We have the Nine of Swords, so there's a sense of anxiety, something that is maybe keeping you up at night. Maybe it's a tough time. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad things coming, but it does have that element of worry to it. So it's not just excitement, it is anxiety. It's got that sort of difficult, fearful element to it. And we'll clarify here in a minute to kind of see what it looks like. But I also want to look at the next card that I put down here is just kind of what's the setting for this. So what is, if we're looking at a situation where there's some anxiety, what is the weather, what is wrapped around this from an energetic perspective? How does it, what's kind of coloring the whole situation energy wise? And we have strength, so this is good. And I always say the strength card never happens in a vacuum. This is always because you're having to work against something. It's against some sort of fear, it's against some sort of force. So this is positive, though. I'd like to see how this maybe plays out. And so the next card that I want to pull is going to be the thing that sticks out the most about this situation. So we've got a situation where there's some anxiety or at least some worry going on, but there's also strength, and it's got a good feeling coming from that card. It makes me wonder. Oop, I dropped one. Makes me wonder what else is going to come in around that. And so we see the thing sticking out the most around this is, if we take just the top card, it is the death card in reverse. So if we take a look at it, the death card really is a card of transformation, and that's always been true. But in this deck, it is particularly, it's like you're breathing the life into your own transformation. And so here it has come out in the reverse. So we have a situation where maybe somebody is not transforming, or they are not seeing that change. This could be part of what's causing the anxiety. If it is you that's having a hard time changing during the month of October, you could be causing some anxiety for yourself. If it's somebody else that you're looking to have change that isn't changing, something about a situation isn't changing, then again, this may be what's causing some of that anxiety. But this is what sticks out the most about it. So let's dig in a little bit deeper. And this is just sort of a gratuitous, give me another message sort of position in this reading. I really love it because it's very flexible. It can mean a lot of things. So we have the Six of Swords in reverse. Here's that butterfly again. And so this is a Six of Swords that talks about transformation. So a lot of times you'll see it is, having moved on to calmer waters, and you'll see someone who's actually in a boat. So this one doesn't have that same imagery, but it does have the imagery of transformation and moving on to a next step. But for some reason, that's not happening. So we see that here in a very major arcana way. We see it here echoed in a minor arcana way, but we're going to get clarifiers that will help us to understand a little bit more what's happening there. So we really get the sense that there is a change that isn't happening, a transformation that isn't being allowed to happen, and it is creating some anxiety here. Looking into the hidden energy a little bit, I guess I want to know what other messages does Spirit want you to know? What is hidden? And this is kind of the what's around the corner sort of question. It's stuff you might know if you were in a position to see it. So Nine of Wands, you've got a person here who has this is a person who's kind of still standing and still engaging, but they've been doing it for a long time. Sometimes you see it as the wounded warrior card. It is definitely, it's got that feeling of being tired and kind of at the end. And if you look at it, in tarot, it goes ace through 10, but once you get to the 9, it's really pretty much over. So, once you get to the 10 in wands, it is having that bundle that you need to lay down, having that extra burden, but you still are very much holding on to something here. And it's something that's difficult. It's a battle that's kind of still going on, but it doesn't have that sense of victory. So we'll look a little bit more into that when we get into the clarifiers. But I want to also understand before we get to that, really just kind of what's coming your way, what's coming in your direction. And it's that next step, right? So it's not always the end all be all, but we are talking about the month of October. So what can you expect to sort of come out for you next? And here we have the King of Wands in reverse. And the King of Wands in reverse, the way that this one feels, it's got this sense of not being able to be, not being cooperative, about being controlled. Somebody who is maybe wanting to play, have a power struggle, or they're engaging in a power struggle with you. There is maybe a situation where it almost feels like it should be a foregone conclusion about how things ought to work out, but for some reason, this person is, they're choosing to engage a battle that is maybe somewhat questionable, and they may be engaging it with you. So we'll take a closer look here. So that was the Uncommon Tarot. That's the deck that I used to pull these first few cards. I'm going to clarify now with one of the Prisma Visions deck. This is the one that I have. They have a bunch of them out there. They're all super cool. This is the one that I have, and I just love this deck. But we're going to start by clarifying this Nine of Wands, to kind of understand a little bit more about what's happening with this anxiety. So it's an attempt at balance, or it's a feel that there is something happening that isn't in balance, but there's also a sense that you've set something into motion. So there's this feeling of anxiety, but there's also it's about something that it's coming, but you've kind of brought it on yourself, and you're just nervous about it. This is, when I first laid this card down, it wasn't necessarily that it was a bad thing, but the Nine of Swords implies a difficult, fearful state. But it feels like worry about maybe something that is a good thing. So it's, am about to start a new job, and I'm super worried about it. But it's an attempt to establish balance, because this job's going to be better for my family, for my life, whatever the situation is there. But it may not be that. May be I'm going to make this some other change for my life that it's going to be better. I've thought this through. I'm waiting for it. I've got definitely set things in motion for it, but I'm a little bit nervous about it. There's definitely that sense of nervousness that is leading the way. There's like this feeling, I want to take deep breaths for this person when I when I read these cards, because that's what I do when I feel like this. So let's take a look now at this Strength card. And remember, this was kind of the weather that was happening in the environment. So we have the Seven of Pentacles. It's a sense of having invested, or a sense of investing. This is a good idea. It's something that you have decided. If this Nine of Swords is you, then you've invested in something that's a good idea. It's going to bring you balance. It's going to be good for you, good for your household, good for your family. And that's what's lending you some of the strength here to move forward. You also have this Five of Wands in reverse, and this Five of Wands is an interesting one. And I want to hold it up and just show it to you. It doesn't necessarily look all that spectacular when you first look at it, but the way it feels. So the Five of Wands can be a very struggle oriented card. It can be internal struggle. And this one is especially internal struggle oriented to me, because all of the people that are in this card look the same. Okay. And so it's got this sort of struggle sense to it, but it also, if you look at it, it looks like they could do something together that would be constructive. And in reality, that is part of what can happen with the Five of Wands. And so when I get it in the upright, this particular deck, I often feel like there's a struggle and people kind of haven't found their groove yet. When I get it in the reverse, I get the sense more that they're finding that groove. It's less of a struggle, and it's getting to be more of a working together. So again, I get the feel that you're heading in a direction. If this is you, with the nervousness and the having trouble sleeping, I've made some changes to my life that make me a little bit nervous. It's all for a good cause. This is looks like it's going to start to play out reasonably well for you. At least the energy around you would suggest that. So then let's look at this Death card that's in reverse. There is something here. What is it that doesn't want to change? We've got something that doesn't want to change. And there's a sense of, it's kind of being left out in the cold, but it's keeping yourself out in the cold. That's what that card feels like to me. Sometimes you get the Five of Pentacles and you see the person has the ability to come in. It's often somebody sitting outside that's feeling like they're not in a great place, but they have the ability. It's often outside of a church or something that would be open and available to them, but they're not going in. They have a key, but they're not using it sometimes. And here we have the Three of Swords. So this is around sadness, and it's around some of that healing that hasn't taken place that's implied in this card over here when we took our deeper look. So we've got a transformation that's not taking place. It's something that you're not able to get over, and it feels like it is sort of intruding on the goodness that's happening with you the rest of this energy. You're being surrounded by this energy of strength, of investment, of things coming together and working kind of constructively. You have something over here that maybe you're worried, but it's all, headed in the right direction. You've set things in motion for it, but there is something here where you are still struggling with a pain that came before, something that you need to heal from and you've been working on healing from, but that healing hasn't yet completely taken place. And so here you find this sense of almost holding yourself back from some of these amazing things that could be coming your way, and really just kind of having to relive some of what is happening here. So first of all, when I see this, one of the things I realize is you may need to relive this. You may need to, it feels like a situation where you've come a long way and you feel like you've healed a lot, but there are still some edges that need to be fixed there. So you may need to have that experience. Let's see what happens with the Six of Swords in reverse, because that's the healing that hasn't taken place yet. We'll get some clarity on that. So here is the King of Wands. And you notice here we've got the King of Wands that is in reverse. This is that attempt to control that doesn't go especially well. But here I'm seeing this King of Wands, and I'm kind of getting this feeling that the attempt to control is going especially well, or that it has this thing that you've not yet healed from has to do with a controlling element, if not a controlling person. And then we have a lesson that hasn't been learned. So here is something where you're going to potentially find yourself, if you've got this lesson that hasn't been learned that feels this way, you may find yourself in a cycle. And it's going to be there's almost a hitch in it, because you have to work past some of this pain right here, but if you don't work past it in a way that is particularly constructive, you may end up having to repeat this cycle, which you've had to do before. So I'm getting that sense. Definitely there's some heartbreak in there. There's some feelings of abandonment, and that may even be part of what is driving you to continue in this cycle and what's preventing you from letting yourself in, from out in the cold. If you've got an abandonment issue, and maybe that's why it felt like this needed to happen. If you've got an abandonment issue that you've been working on, this may be a time where you get an experience that causes you to work on it a little bit more, shows you the lesson that hasn't quite been learned, whatever that is. So be looking for it. Look for it to be surrounding an element of control or possibly a controlling person. And it's definitely an area where you're going to want to use caution, because there's some healing that hasn't been done yet here. Remember, over in the hidden energy, we have this sort of wounded warrior feeling. Let's get a little bit closer. We'll look at that and get some clarification on what's happening with that card, because I feel like this might be, is that just one card? Yes, that might be you. So we've got the Queen of Chalices, which is all about giving that love and letting the emotion flow. Oh, we got one more that turned over here, or maybe a couple of them. Just going to take the top card. Yeah, we've got the High Priestess in the reverse. So this is more about that cycle, I guess, but it's about how you can get incredibly tired going through a cycle like this. So this person is really tired, and that's kind of part of what's in their hidden energy. You may have this constant strength and this ability to just always be moving forward. Looks incredibly constructive. You're investing in the right things. But there's more to it. There's something going on here that is complicating things for you. There is an abandonment issue or a betrayal issue. And I feel like it's more abandonment, but I also feel like I'm talking to several people. But it's an issue that is, it's creating that hitch for you, and it's making it, it's associated with this heartbreak that you may need to re-experience. And it may not need to be from that same source. It may just need to be that you sit down and you really meditate on it and think about it for a while. But there's a transformation that needs to happen here, because there's a lesson that you're going to learn. Because right now, you're in a place where that lesson hasn't been learned yet. This is incredibly painful for some of you, depending on where you are in the cycle. Because everybody's going to be on, kind of a different place on the cycle. Even though we have this awesome collective that has a lot in common, we're not all in exactly the same place. But we will want to be looking for that controlling person, and the lesson that hasn't been learned, that place that feels like something hasn't quite yet been healed. But the danger zone over here, we've got this, you're going to potentially have low energy to manage it. And it is a little bit of a kryptonite kind of situation. So this is when you feel compelled to give love unconditionally, and to give of yourself and sort of allow those secrets to come out, that's almost a red flag for you to take a closer look. The trick is, that this is going to be the way that it's supposed to feel in many ways, to partner with someone and to have that relationship with them, but they can't be overly controlling, or else things tend to not work out very well. So let's take a look here. We've got this King of Wands in reverse. And so it's about a situation of attempting to control not going especially well, but I don't know exactly what that means. So let's take a closer look there. So it's judgment, and we have here a situation that you look at it and it does not pass judgment. And we have, oh wait, this is not necessarily a situation that doesn't pass judgment. It's a situation that isn't very good but may pass judgment. That's, I think, what we need to understand. So we've got the Nine of Wands in reverse. It was similar to where we've got the Nine of Wands in the upright over here, and this is that wounded warrior that's kind of still standing, and it's very tired after going through this cycle and giving of themselves, not necessarily getting it back, learning this lesson, but it's sort of this, I almost expect to be treated this way sort of situation, because they've got this abandonment issue, abandonment injury that hasn't really been solved. So it ends in heartbreak a lot of the time. You've got someone who tends to want to exert that control, and there's like an edge that you need to pull up in order to be able to heal from this and move on from this. But that's going to be the trick here. That's this lesson that there is to be learned, and maybe it's even corollary to the reading that I did recently on what your lesson is. That one just kind of really wanted to flow, and it feels very relevant in many ways to the messages that are coming out here, because it's like this person has some modicum of self-worth and is just loves unconditionally. And so that's something that we want to, keep in mind. But they also have to figure out how to navigate the situation. This is a very practical set of cards right here. So this is a person who has looked at the situation. There is an attempt to control. It's not going especially well. They're kind of laying down the mantle of needing to keep going that you see over here. So this is the giving up side of the Nine of Wands. They've decided to accept something about this situation. So when I first got this card, like I see it, and I see it upright, and it feels like something's not passing judgment. But what I realize is, no, it is being allowed to pass judgment. So I'm super curious about that, about what is this situation that is being allowed to pass judgment. And I'm wondering if this is maybe relevant somehow to what we have up here in the original card. Kind of, what's the big idea? Well, there's some anxiety, there's some nervousness, there's an attempt to establish some balance, but maybe it's not all Right. Maybe there is a cycle in here that that has you making a call that you maybe question. That's kind of what I'm getting out of this card. This one, I definitely want to look into this in our extended, because this one right here is probably the most complex feeling in this entire spread, because it doesn't really pass judgment, but it's going to be allowed to pass judgment, and I've decided that this makes the most amount of sense. And there's almost this: I am going to engage, I am going to invest. There is a strength that's working against a fear there. And what's not to be ignored is this cycle, though. This cycle that constantly has this person. Maybe it's you, feeling like you're out in the cold and dealing with this sort of heartbreak and having a hard time healing from it, sort of having to deal with these controlling elements, controlling people, and just getting to a place where you say, you know what, I'm going to take the path of least resistance. And I want to understand if that's really what's going on there, and understand what is going to happen next, maybe what follows this, because this was what is coming next. But I want to understand then, what does that develop into? So we'll look into that in the extended, and we'll also look a little bit more into um, this cycle that has evolved in this reading that's kind of shown up for us here. So this is our outlook for October. It's really interesting because it starts with things are a little bit tense, but I'm trying to work things out. I am investing, I'm making all of the wands work together and go the right way, but there's something here that isn't changing. There's something that isn't changing, and somehow this is something that I'm more or less having with myself, or I'm allowing it, or I'm enabling it, or it might be being done to you, but it might still be a situation of, I've decided it is the path of least resistance and the right way to go. But there is something here about an unhealed issue, and an unlearned lesson that has, it just makes it really hard to go through this cycle. It makes it very tiring to do that, especially because this is a person who continues to give their best, continues to let the flow of emotion happen, and to love. And so now we have a situation where the next step is really, I'm gonna let this happen, even though maybe I've got some anxiety about it. So that is super interesting. That's what we've got is our outlook for October. We're going to definitely have to look a little bit more closely into this. Definitely we'll come back at about mid-month and see how things have adjusted, because it's an interesting situation, but it's like a three-legged stool. It's not exactly a stable one. So things are going to change here, and we should absolutely watch for that. I'm going to go into the extended now, and I'm going to look a little bit more into this situation that doesn't exactly pass judgment, but sort of looks like it does. We'll look a little bit more into this cycle that's happening here as well. But I would just say, if this one resonated with you, please do like, share, subscribe. Let me know which things you like. Let me know what you guys want to hear about. And I will look forward to seeing you again in another reading.